What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Shadowland Universes and welcome back to Shadowland Offerings. Hi, I'm DC Fago Guy, as always, and joining me, as always, is my co hosts with the most, Gage and Robbie. Gentlemen,
Hey.
Hello.
how we doing?
Doing great.
So goddamn good. You wouldn't fucking believe it.
Uh, yeah, from what I understand, you and I have been busy with doing a lot of the same kind of shit.
Yes, we have been moving our homes to new homes.
Yes. As everyone probably has noticed, if you don't watch me on my YouTube channel, I have a new background. I'm in a new space. I am in the basement. So,
It
moving.
looks good. I
It's
see
fun.
some masks back there. I see some CDs. I'm liking it.
It's a cool
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah, the sermon mask, it just literally got set
Pops.
back up because it was just kind of sitting there on the shelf with the head that it's on next to it. And I was like, well, let's get that up right for the video.
Yeah,
So-
I'm taking some inspo for my move. But listen, that's not what we're here to talk about today.
No, not at all.
No one. What if it was? What if we just did an hour on like moving, setting up, shelving?
Our offerings to you is moving advice and
Mask
how to set up your
storage.
displays.
Yeah.
No, what we are here to do is to discuss the Oracle album Shadowland. This is a video, this is an episode we've been wanting to do for a while, basically ever since the history episode dropped. But as just previously stated, I've been moving, Robbie's been moving, Gage has been patiently waiting for us to finish moving.
I've been busy with family stuff too, so
Yeah.
And it just happened to work out. We are at a really good space to do this, and it coincides beautifully with the launch of the Oracle's Quest, which, if you have not played that yet, first of all, finish this episode and go fucking play that because one, it's great and I'm excited, and two, there's spoilers, so spoiler alert to you. If you haven't played it, maybe this will make you want to go play it, but the very first chapter, I think that's what they're calling it. He's
Chapter.
calling it chapter. We dive into fucking Shadowland, and I know the two of you feel the same way about this. Like, it was so fucking cool to be in Shadowland.
Yeah. Did you guys, I know, so a similar but different version of like the Shadowland space that you could walk around in was part of the VR stuff when like the Dreamwalker stuff was really popping. And you can do this in VR too, but did you guys play with that at all with that
Not
version
at
of the
all.
Shadowland?
no.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. I felt the fear of missing out hardcore with that. It was one of those things where I just couldn't justify a headset. And that's what I like about this, as I feel like I'm really getting that experience. I really appreciate that he went out of his way to make it more widely available. It's super cool.
Yeah.
Which I will say, my experience of doing it on the phone, I want to play it on a computer for sure. And like, if I had a VR set, that feels like the ideal way to experience it. Super fucking dope, though. I just feel like this brightness on my phone's screen really kind of not allow me to see everything. Like, I remember roaming around and trying to make my way to different mountains, and I'm like not moving, and I realize, oh, I'm like on the boundary of the world.
Yeah.
Full brightness up.
Yeah, I did do the VR stuff. Not in with I don't have like a headset, but you could do it on PC. So I borrowed my girlfriend's gaming laptop and listened to the record while running around in there once, and it was really cool. But I think this is actually significantly cooler because there are a few things. There's characters and entities to talk to, which is really neat. You know, like these kind of guys, as you'll see on my chest here. They're there ready to talk to you, which I think is really cool. And there's tasks and stuff. Like, it's like more game-ish. They're not calling it a game. They're being very clear not to call it a game, but to call it an experience, because
It was like a quest.
it's an in-between. Yeah. So, but there are game-ish tasks like accomplish this, talk to this guy, then get this thing, and like, which makes it a lot more engaging than it was just to kind of run around, which was also cool, but this is cooler.
Yeah, it's got like, I know it's an experience and not necessarily a game, but it feels like an indie game, like horror game that you would have on Steam. Like really simplistic, but like it's atmospheric and like unsettling, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited about this. I don't know how much of this I should talk about, but he did give me a little teaser. If you watched last episode, when we went over the schedule, Oracle Quest was on there, and I kind of knew what was happening. And actually getting the full first part of the launch, it's way cooler than I could have imagined. So
hell yeah,
I'm excited.
You got to be like what you call a playtester, right? Isn't that what they call in the game designing stages? Or you're a playtester?
Yeah, I got a small little snippet of something, and he was like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And I thought it was exciting, and seeing it launch is really cool. So it's really cool. I keep saying cool, but
it's cool.
I mean, it's cool. It's cool. It really is.
Cool. Nobody else is doing anything like this, even outside of the underground music scene. No one else is making their own games, and this is just one of many experiences or games or interactive things that he's doing. And it's exciting, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I have friends who are not aware of this music, but I'm like, hey, check this thing out. This independent artist that I made this thing. So I don't know if they checked it out, but everybody thought it was a really awesome idea and exciting. So maybe one day people who don't know the music could find it and get into the music that way. But it's super cool.
I would say too, as more chapters of it come out, that's definitely, you get them in, they're like, oh, this is really cool. And then you could be like, well, hey, here's what kind of inspired these, the worlds you just ventured into. These are a musical form of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which would be really cool.
I probably, the first night it dropped, put in a good 3 or 4 hours because I thought that I needed to figure out how to do the next thing. Turns out the next thing doesn't exist yet. So I was doing my damnedest to talk to the same guys multiple times and all this stuff. But even aside from that, it was just super fun to be immersed in it a little bit, and like we've talked about on literally every episode for some fucking reason. I'm not a game guy. I don't play a lot of games. But this, because there is the tie-in with something that I do like so much, and I can go into the world of it and I guess this is it's a free fucking thing. I mean, it doesn't matter if we do spoilers, but you see Mr. Gray, who we've had some dealings with. You see the mission infect soldiers in the chambers, floating, and then you go into Shadowland and explore there, and it's just it's really cool to take the things, the imagery and the stuff you hear in the lyrics and whatnot, and really get in there and immerse yourself in it, for lack of any better term. It's very exciting. So I'm excited to see more roll out.
He very much with that linked mission infect to the oracles, and that to me was something that my brain never did.
Yeah,
seeing that was just really fucking cool. Especially right off the heels of Epidemic. So that was just really fucking cool.
Totally. And it was a good way to tie that new record into something older and kind of make them make sense in the same universe.
It makes the universes of it make more sense, instead of feeling like individual islands that are kind of out and about in a space. It's building bridges across them in a really cool way that I didn't expect.
Good way to put it.
Yeah.
All of the various Shadowland universes are coming together.
Which, I mean, that to me kind of ties into what Shadowland Universes is. It's not like a record label. It's not this, it's not that, it's not this. Shadowland Universe is just multifaceting. So,
yeah. And we thought, hey, with the launch of this, Chapter 1 is you exploring fucking Shadowland itself, the purple space behind me every episode, but way more in depth than this. Although these electrical guys are not there today in Oracle Quest yet, maybe. Later.
Yeah, he'll expand areas that were already there to begin with. It's got a lot of potential.
But for now, we figured, hey, we've been walking around Shadowland, talking to fucking entities and trying to solve riddles and shit. Why not talk about where it all started? The Shadowland album.
Exactly. Which, honestly, too, the other thing that I wanted to throw out there is way before Loke reached out to me, Robbie, or Gage, and said anything about doing this, the three of us have been talking for a while, and one of the things we always loosely threw out there was, hey, what if we did a podcast talking about the oracles?
And
here we are, full circle, on the circle, this is like the moment that I think the three of us probably have been waiting for a long time.
Honestly, yeah. Yeah, it is a cool full circle moment. And I guess we can kind of let the cat out of the bag that this is something that we'll probably do here and there to tie into cool events like Oracle Quest. And Robbie sat down with Loki and did a Shadowland history on Shadowland.
Yeah.
As of recording earlier this month. So that also was kind of got the gears turning for this. So like when the time feels right and there's something to kind of get us excited and to talk about it again, Book of Time, maybe the remix album, Parasuva, Aizu. We already talked about Nekuli, but I don't know, maybe we'll do like a retrospective, like how has it aged or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a good reason to do that.
Yeah, which we did talk about that. So if you want to hear that, that's already there.
It's already in the can. Go check it out on YouTube or The Circle.
Yeah,
that's all. That's just a little plug.
So yeah, I guess we're gonna jump right into the album then, shall we, gentlemen?
Yeah. So the way I thought this would be cool would be if we all talked about kind of our first experiences with the record, with Shadowland. And I think the best way to do that is with the earliest of our experiences, which would be Gage, who, I don't know if you were there day one of the drop, or walk us through that and just kind of let me interview you a little bit about your thoughts.
I think about the actual timeline a lot, and I wish I had an exact day and date of when I found the music itself. So it started with finding ICP and getting into them in middle school, and then very quickly finding Low Key, and it was between it was around the time Bang Pow Boom dropped, which was what, 09?
Yeah.
So it was around that time frame. So I found Low Key, and quickly got into all that stuff, and that was right before Shadowland kicked off.
Hold on, really quick. What would have been the first thing you heard then in 09? That would have been Chameleotic was out.
Chameleotic was a big one. I almost want to say it was 2010 feels right, or it might have been 2011 itself, because I remember
2010 seems pretty right, because that's when the nuclear edition of Bang Pow Boom came out and the whole Miracles going viral moment.
All that stuff was popping off, and that felt like a wave of people finding them that was around my age. And my memory is soup, but it was around 2010 or 2011 when I found Low Key, so it had to be right before Shadowland, because I remember Release 2 was one of the first CDs I got.
That's what I was getting at, was what was the first thing you heard that sucked you in and all that?
I think Release 2 was a big one. Chameleotic was okay, this is music that speaks to me as the person that I was at that age, and even now that album is really good, and that kind of sucked me in. And Solo was big, just everything I could find. I wish I could remember what the first thing I found was, but I remember it being really hard to just search for Low Key. It took me forever to find his music, find a Facebook page and everything, because it's not as accessible as it was. It wasn't easy to find stuff back then as it is now.
Pre-streaming. It wasn't on Spotify. It wasn't Spotify.
I didn't have Spotify. I didn't have a smartphone until I was in high school, so I was old school in it on a computer at home and shit. I wish I knew exactly what the first song I heard was, but the albums Chameleotic, Release 2, and I know Solo were big ones. And I got a big box of CDs, and that had to be when Shadowland came out. And I remember you could buy promos and stuff, so I got this.
Hell yeah.
And DC, I can send you better pictures of it so you can put it up on the screen. But it's an old Shadowland promo. See the malaria on the back there.
Damn. Yeah, I've never seen that malaria flyer. That's awesome.
Which I'll take pictures and send them. I had it in a little plastic case. It's probably one of the coolest things I own as far as just underground stuff. As funny as it sounds, just a simple little flyer.
And I have to assume probably the oldest thing in your collection, even ICP wise, right?
I have this, and then I have two. I have the original promos that Eight Legs did. I have a card with like all the different masks and then the ripped heart design, and this.
That's cool.
Yeah. So those are probably the like coolest things I own for sure. And I have, decent collection of stuff. But I get the album, and
so really quick before we get to hearing it, did you anticipate it? Like, did you see promo and go, "Oh, that guy I like has a new thing coming. I'm excited for this."
Yeah. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place.
You're good.
It's just like coming to me as I'm thinking about it. I don't think so, just because it was all new and mysterious and I didn't know what it was. To me, everything was new.
Yeah.
And like I didn't pay attention to the dates and times and stuff as much when stuff dropped. So that's also why it's hard for me to remember like exact pinpointing the time.
Yeah, it came out and you got it. We don't need to
came out.
I was just curious if you were like feverishly waiting or something.
No, I was just so disconnected. It was this nebulous thing to me. And like a website, I'd look at the like shop and look at the masks and be like, man, I wish I had those. And now I have too many as an adult. But I got the CD. I listened to everything on a Walkman, and the CD is busted to hell. It's the old one that doesn't have a track list.
Yeah,
nothing on the spine.
OG shit.
Yeah, the super mysterious one. And this album blew my mind. I didn't know that music could sound like this or feel like this. It felt dark and genuinely like scary. I was like, this Loki guy has like something wrong with him. And like it. And that's one thing that was cool about the history video that kind of brought me back to that moment of like, there's something unsettling about this music because there was like genuine like mental unwellness that went into it, which does make for good art as it turns out. But it was just scary and genuinely concerning in like a really cool, exciting way. And it just kind of changed my perspective on like what music could be and like concept and sounds. And like I was getting into bands like Linkin Park and like Hollywood Undead, and ICP had the kind of like rock and rap mix, and that's a lot of what Shadowland is. So it spoke to me at that time too. And I thought this was the coolest thing in the world. Everybody that I could like talk to about it, I'd show my cousins. I lent this. That's why the case is beat to hell too. I'd lend this to anybody who would like be willing to take it. I remember trading one of my friends like, hey, you take this, and they gave me like a Limp Bizkit CD or some shit, which I gave them the better music.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I have a distinct memory of one of the last like birthdays I had, with like your cousins come over, aunts, uncles, and everything, and I just sat in my room the whole time and forced my cousins to listen to Shadowland with me, because I was just so like blown away and excited about it, and just always trying to get people to be like, look at this thing and understand this thing the way I do. There's something special and dark about it, but it's intriguing, you know. But
did it hit for anyone?
No, they always humored me. And nobody ever was really like, yeah, you know, that's my favorite thing too. But which has just been the experience up until this very day. But you know, I'm loud about the things that I'm passionate and excited about. So here I am now. It worked out for me. So that was long and kind of rambly, but I just kind of vomited my thoughts. But we'll get more. Yeah, we'll get more granular as we go in the conversation. But that's my experience, just being a young person, discovering all this stuff. I was, like 13-ish around that time, and just like having my brain just blown the fuck away. Even into like high school and stuff, I did like the album like just hooked into my brain creatively. Like I did a dramatic reading of Lost for a school project once.
Damn.
Yeah. Cool. I did I wrote my own short stories based off of Shadowland. All sorts of stuff. I was inspired by it in a really big way.
I think I'm next, I believe.
I would say yes. You discovered Loke before I did.
Okay, so Shadowland was actually the first low-key music I heard at all, which was interesting because I got into low-key through Zool, a la Zoolilu. So I heard The Almighty, and it has Into the Fire, the second version with Lee Carver on it, and was just like, this is crazy. I love this. Who's this guy on it? I'd seen the masks on the Psychopathic Museum, for those who know about buying and selling things on the internet, and in the Juggalo world specifically. I had seen the masks and thought they were cool, but had no clue what it was. And then when I heard that song, I was like, okay, I got to explore this guy more. I gotta figure out what this is. So I actually went on the museum and was like, where do I start with low-key? I want to hear more of this guy's stuff. Got the worst advice I'd ever received in my life. For some reason, people thought I meant where can I find it? So people were like, you should look at Spotify. Oh, Amazon Music has some. And I was like, yeah, I know how to hear music in the year of our Lord 2018. I am trying to find where do I start with this guy's music. And a lot of people said Chameleatic, and then someone said something along the lines of here, solo's good for this, the house is good for this, blah, blah, blah. But if you want something a little weirder and darker, Shadowland. And I was like, okay, you piqued my interest. So I went straight to that first and was just not really ready, I don't think. It's that kind of thing where I was just oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, and I don't know what I think about it. And then, but that thing with records that end up becoming your kind of favorites, where it's there was something about that I want to go hear that again. What was there was a nugget of something that kept me returning to it. And then that just kind of spiraled into where we are today, just a huge obsession. But it was a weird place to start for sure, compared to probably most people's, traditional horrorcore origins with low-key. If I would have gone to Let's Get Violent or something, it would have been a different experience. But I think because it was so weird and different, it locked me into immediately I was ready to go anywhere with this guy. You know what I mean? Wherever he zigged and zagged musically, it was all right, well, I started in a weird place. Let's get weird,
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's where I would say that it really wasn't a weird place to start at all, because it was so interesting and different.
Totally. DC, what was you? Talk to us.
My story, I've told I think a few times. Mine was I started with I got introduced to Loke through Cabal, which Buckshot, Mr. Gray, not Mr. Gray, the Infect dude, random, Mr. Gray, the Gorilla Voltage rapper, Damn Dirty Apes previously. That was my exposure and introduction to Loki. Now, I had heard Loke's name plenty of times. I was a regular viewer of Beneath the Dirt, and Beneath the Dirt, he talks about all kinds of underground artists, and Loke is just one of those artists that for the longest time, he was thrown into that box. You've heard the song, you know the story. I was that guy. I threw him in that box, and Cabal was like, whoa, who? I knew who it was. It's what the fuck have I been sleeping on? So knowing Roan was a regular, praised his name a lot, I just straight up hit him up and I was like, man, this low-key guy is fucking great. He's like, I know, I've been saying. So, and I remember his episode that he did around December of 2020. He talked about the Eyes of Parasuva. So I basically just kind of curiously asked him more about the oracles. I went and listened to Metanoia first and then Parasuva. I kind of went backwards, but when I hit Parasuva and knew that was an oracle, I immediately finished Parasuva and then went to the beginning and listened to Shadowland. And I remember asking Roan, I said, hey, where's the story? How's the story laid out for these oracles? I thought it was very Joker card-like. There was going to be a book that had what it was and everything. And he's like, the story's in the music. So I was able to listen to the oracles completely observing everything going on in the music, and that's the story that it really kind of unfolded. So I went into it completely knowing like what the journey was going to be like, and I think that that's a lot of what has shaped how I kind of perceive the albums. You know, I went into it knowing that it was kind of inspired by sleep paralysis, and that it was more or less going into a dream world. So that's every time I listened to any of the albums, it was always with the mindset of this is a dream world. So going into Shadowland was just a great experience. It was one that it's taken. The thing about Shadowland is there's so many layers to it that I'm still picking up on layers. Like just today, I was reading through the lyrics, and I just realized that there's a part where in Deviltree where there's a reference to the circle, like it's capitalized the circle, and it's like Jesus fucking Christ, like so many layers that I'm still picking up on. So that was my journey, and it was very quick into discovering Loke. It was like probably the third or fourth album of his I listened to.
Man, that's such a cool place to start. I love that. I like the way that like the album has like transcended like its time for everybody, and like we all came in at like different points, and hearing Shadowland for the first, like that's the entrance point is crazy. And like it for me, that was the one that was like, okay, this guy's different. There's something special going on here. And we have a friend, SON, Mr. Nothing Man, something on nothing. I had a conversation with him because he's a big fan of Low Key. That's his favorite artist. You may know him, his music. And he said that Shadowland changed his inner landscape. And to me, that like is such an interesting like way to put it, because it's like something about the album just like flips a switch in your brain. Is like, oh, like art can do this. There's something about this album that is inspiring and terrifying and exciting. It's just great album. Like,
and it's an album where there's so much going on in the background. Like one of the things I can say about my first time listening to it was there's a lot of like little spoken word pieces. There's like, I think it's at the end of Lost, maybe Shatter, where you have like this like little whispers kind of in the distance, and that goes on for a long time. I remember my first time listening to it and kind of be like, okay, let's get to the next song. But now when I listen to it, it's like it's an environmental thing where like if you sat in a dark room listening to that, like that shit would fuck with your head. Especially if you're on any kind of a substance, that shit would fuck with your head. And it's those little things that add so much environment to the album.
Totally.
It's got a dense atmosphere to it. Like, this is a great album to, just sit in the dark and listen to it sober or on something. Yeah. Those are like the small little bits and pieces that make this album feel so terrifying and special.
And immersive. Like,
that's a great word for it.
Because listening to it, I don't even really think about the songs. Like, there's a couple I do, like Together, I guess, just because it opens it, and then like Deviltree, I think just because that melody's so sticky and stuff like that. But for the most part, if I'm thinking about the record, I'm not thinking of like the track listing and like, oh, I love this song. And like, I'm thinking of the immersive qualities of it, and the little whispers and the transitions and just the kind of world building that goes on, not even in a lyrical sense of like, because there is a lot of world building lyrically in here where there's even characters named and Oracle stuff named that came out almost 10 years later, some that hasn't come out yet, but just the world building within the soundscape and the way it's like it walks you through itself, I guess, is I'm describing this terribly, but it sucks you in and takes you through it, the journey of all the songs, almost as if the songs are things you pass through as you walk through the other thing, which is all of the little whispers and samples and soundscapes and transitions and backwards guitars and like all that stuff, I think is what is the glue. and then the songs are just like good songs, you know, like and the songs hold a lot of that magic too, but individually none of them, if you took out that stuff, I think would have the same effect that the piece has, you know.
Yeah, the album itself is an experience and almost has its own perspective of like an out of body experience of like you're the shadow person watching, you are just the Shadowland, or you're the person having the dream, to kind of like tie it in with like the lore and the feelings of it. It has a perspective, and the whole art piece itself is just an experience that experiences itself. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting like really weird with it, but like, does that? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why it lends itself so much to something like Oracle Quest or whatever, where it's like, because think about 2011 or whatever, and you get that, and it's got the cover, and you're like, what the fuck is this? Mm-hmm. And then, you know, the music, and it just, all of it's extremely mysterious. And I think as time has gone on, I don't think any of that mystery has really necessarily gone away, but it's been fleshed out in a way that now there's it's a little more tangible, and so we can go into Oracle Quest and walk around and be like, oh, there's the devil tree. You know, this is the guy from the cover,
which is definitely something I know Gage and I for sure did. Like, as soon as I was looking around and I noticed I went towards it. I was like, I gotta get to the devil tree. And I think that's about the time I spotted you, Robbie, on there, which is another thing we didn't even talk about with the Oracle Quest, is if you're actively playing while other players are, you can see them in Shadowland with like a little name badge above them. But I see him just running towards it, and I'm like, I'm fucking going there too, man.
And I love that you can't interact with people, but you can see them. That in itself feels dreamlike in a way, where it's like,
oh yeah,
we're all just here in this same space, kind of but we're on our own journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If anybody's ever played the Dark Souls games, those games have a system like that. It's a oppressive, like, dying world, and you're like a lone warrior trying to save it, and you can see like white silhouettes of like other players who are simultaneously in the similar area as you. You can also see like there's like blood stains on the ground you can interact with to see like how people have died in their other games, and it's cool. Yeah, as soon as I saw, like, because I got in there, I saw like a white like line flashing across my screen. I'm like, what is that? I was chasing it, and I realized it was Robbie's name floating. I was like, that's fucking cool. And I immediately thought of Dark Souls with that, just like wandering like a lonely, like dead castle, and you just see like a phantom of somebody else on their own lonely journey. It's cool to be like, I'm alone, but I'm not, because somebody else is experiencing a similar thing in its own way. But yeah, I made a beeline for the Devil Tree. I talked about my like being inspired by the album to make my own like art based off. I wrote a short horror story about somebody walking through Shadowland and finding the Devil Tree, and this is before the Masks and Machetes card. This is before the game, or the Oracle Quest, and I imagine like this tall, impossibly large dead tree with like bodies hanging off of it, and like the wood is like almost vaguely like a low-key mask shape. And it was cool to see the card, and that's exactly what it was that I had imagined just listening to the music. It's very vivid, the pictures you can get in your head that were then translated to art, and then that's what it is in the Oracle Quest. I was like, oh my god, that's the thing I thought of in my head right in front of me. It's so cool.
One of the other things that I wanted to say about Quest Oracles, though, is it was weird diving into that, because like you listen to the album Shadowland so much, and it kind of gives you this like dreary feeling of a world that you should be really terrified of. Mm-hmm. And the weird thing about going into the Quest Oracles is it didn't feel scary. It felt comfortable, weirdly enough. And I think that it's just the songs like Follow You and Lost and The Devil Tree. They're ones you've listened to so much, and they build that atmosphere, and you can like close your eyes and picture it in a way that once you actually get there, it's a weird familiarity that you're not scared of. What tracks would you guys say kind of does that for you?
Oh boy, it makes me feel scared, or it makes me feel warm and known.
Just the tracks that were so like awe-inspiring, that mesmerized you in a way that you could picture like you could picture Shadowland in a way.
Yeah, well, so one thing I'll touch on, just a text conversation that me and Gage had probably 2 years ago, maybe, because I remember there was a period of time where we were like, all right, we got to figure out these oracles.
Yeah,
because like I feel like Parasuva and Aizu, and now Neculi, but this was pre-Neculi,
yeah,
came with pretty sturdy built-in lore. You know what I mean? Where it was like, here's what this is about.
Yeah, here's the character, here's the concepts, boom.
But the first two are a little bit more nebulous. And so I remember we were kind of chatting, and I was just listening to Shadowland over and over again, and being like, I got to figure this out. What's happening in this record, you know? And one thing that was really illuminating from the conversation I had with Loke about it for the Shadowland history episode was that, intentionally, unintentionally, I'm not sure, but it kind of blended the pre-Oracles low-key writing style of horrorcore, where there's stuff in here where he's got knives and he's, you know, doing horrorcore stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's also the Shadowland universe, not to be confused with the channel you may be watching this on, but the world in the album, you know, the physical space or whatever. And they kind of are blended, and that is, to me, a really interesting thing that, like, I was trying to put together for so long, because I was like, okay, with the Together music video, and that's, to answer your question in a long way, Together is a big one for me, because with the music video and the fact that it kind of shows physically a bunch of people killing themselves and then coming back to life, I was like, and then there's songs in the album where, like, Loki is a murderer, like he would have been in the house or whatever. So I was like, okay, so do you die to go to Shadowland? Like, is that, so like Together we're going, you know, we're venturing hand in hand. Is that into death and then this other space, which it doesn't have to be that. Turns out it's, you know, death, dreams, a number of different paths to get there. But that was my entry point into trying to figure out, like, what the space of it was, what the world of it was, and like the lore of it is like, okay, so maybe low-key is the character in the album going around killing people so that they can go to Shadowland. And I still don't know that there's any, you know, this is my own fan fiction, but but it was interesting to hear him talk about it and say, like, okay, well, there is just some stuff that's like, I know how to write songs like this, and so I'm, you know, there's a little bit of house guy in there mixed with a little bit of what we would get on future oracles, be it Book of Time and forward, with the world building and stuff. So Together is a big one, I would say, and then right into Whispers in Nibiru. That, or Whisper singular, sorry. But just that, like, waking up basically during the apocalypse or whatever, and like, which also took me into the death leading to Shadowland thing, where it's like, okay, so the world is ending, and you wake up in this beautiful purple space, which great theming on that. But yeah, so some of those early tracks, I think, are the ones that, to answer your question, brought me into the physicality of it, or like the space of it, and kind of wrapping my head around how that happened.
Which is interesting, because I know we've talked about this previously in our kind of interpretations of Shadowland. Is it an afterlife? Is it a dream world? And I know you guys were pretty together on thinking that it was an afterlife where you get to it through death, and it's a dream world. And similarly, like you're saying with Together, when I listen to that, it's very lullaby-like for me when I listen to it. You get to the end of it then with the alarm clock going off. For me, the visual I have is like when you have that just nightmarish night terror, or sleep paralysis, even, of like, you're just hearing these voices and this is the chanting that they're saying to you, and you wake up, your alarm goes off, but then, oh shit, you're not actually awake. Here you are in this like dream world, and that's when Whisper of Nibiru pops in, and you realize you're like, what you're in this in this other world, which
Yeah.
we've established you can be achieved through sleeping. It can be reached through death, and things like that. One of the other things funny that I have to mention about Whisper of Nibiru is, I wouldn't even say early. It was probably as soon as maybe 2 years ago, even. Like you guys, I was trying to wrap my head around, like, okay, we have Blood of Izu, we have Eyes of Parasuva, we've got entities behind these albums. For me, I was trying to establish, okay, what's the concept of Book of Time? Who's the entity behind it? And same way with Shadowland, that at one point I convinced myself Nibiru was a person, and it was his whisper.
I mean, TBD.
Funny thing I had to throw in there was just that I was convinced at one point Nibiru was an actual oracle, and like Shadowland was kind of his whisper. But yeah, just a little funny thing. But
I mean,
yeah, I think Together into
true,
Whisper of Nibiru is just a really great transition, and definitely something that starts off the album great. And again, Lost is super atmospheric in that way. Gage, I want to give you like a platform to talk about the tracks you want to before I say what I want to say about Far Away.
Yeah,
yeah, big one.
Yeah, Far Away is very special. Let me just recollect the thoughts. I do like the idea of Nibiru. It could be an oracle, like we don't know. I would love to just know how far out he has this stuff mapped. I'm such a nerd for like lore and Easter eggs, that like getting like drops and nuggets and bits. I like the idea of Together, like being a dream, and then you wake up into the whisper, and that goes off. But yeah, we've always like tried to figure out like what is the lore of this album, the perspective, the story, and we're like, yeah, Loki's killing people, but it also seems like he's dying, and it's like shifting perspectives and a bunch of different like vignettes of stuff happening. And the history video, listening to Loki talk about it, him being like, it's conveying a feeling of like being in a dream and like something hostile, like observing it and then it becoming hostile to you, was such a like, oh, okay, so it is like shifting perspectives in my head of like dreams becoming hostile. And like one of the, to go back to the question of like what is like a song that's also like terrifying and scary but also like interesting to me, but Follow You is a big one. Like I always imagine like a house with like shifting perspectives in a house and like an orb chasing you until it gets you, and then it gets to that like bridge that's like kind of like, that's like one of those pepperings of like rap sections that also alludes to Izu and Parasuba, and that blew my fucking mind when I was like, oh, it's in the oh my god, he like had it all the way back then.
Totally.
And that was such a cool moment, having that like payoff years later that was buried, that I didn't even know was there. Follow You is huge. Lost, like I said, I did a dramatic reading of that song in school. Just like the story is like very vivid, of like another one of those like, oh, somebody died and went to Shadowland, of like somebody who's like overdose and then is going through this like purgatory state of like slowly rotting. It's very like reminds of songs like Killing Fields and Echo Side from like ICP and everything. It's got a vibe like that. I like Lost a lot. Shattered is another good one. I imagine like this like Shattered to me like puts you back at the beginning of the album, post like cataclysmic event that was Nibiru, of like some shadow entity just like watching the chaos unfold. And then Deviltree is the other one that is like very like vivid. The song is so haunting and beautiful and scary, and that was another one of the songs of like is this guy okay? Like listening to the song, I'm like, is the guy making this music like all right? Because I'm worried, but also this is so fucking cool. But yeah, those are kind of like the songs that really like invoke that feeling of like it's comfortable but it's not. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, it's interesting though that you guys were talking about like in the album, like Loki's there killing people. In a lot of my listens, it was always you were in the perspective of Loki in a dream world. That for me, that's how I kind of experienced it a lot, was through like a first person of him in a dream world. Through time, it's kind of I'm the listener and I'm in this world, but it's still in a first person point of view. So it's interesting that you guys had that. For me, I never really felt like it was Loki in, like in, for instance, Dissect. It was never like Loki doing that. It was just other evil entities out there in Shadowland doing that stuff.
I would say, yeah, like when I first listened to it, it was like through the perspective of Loki, just because that's kind of what I had expected out of the genre. I didn't think of shifting perspectives and story. Now, today, me is like, this is just shifting perspectives and just like a dream world that can turn hostile, or you're experiencing through the perspective of the dream, and it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
There's also an element that I think might be imagined by me to all of this, where but something I remember thinking a lot with Dissect specifically, and some of the other songs Together being one of them and whatnot, was that I was taking a lot of metaphor for like drug addiction is part of it, which again, I don't know if that's just me reading things that aren't there or whatever, but there's like, you know, bring her down below to the darkness, which in the song itself is like a violent, you know, torture, murder situation, almost like Hellraiser-y the way I see it. But there's a lot of bringing people into this dark space, whether it be Together we, you know, venture hand in hand, or bring her down below into the darkness and all that stuff. And it almost reminded me of like the way that little pods of people, like friend groups or whatever, can kind of fall into bad habits and bad lifestyles together, and fall into just, you know, terrible spaces or whatever. But like it just really, like, something I like about these records, the Oracle records specifically, is that they are abstract enough that you can bring a lot of different ideas into them. And like, I don't necessarily think Loke intended for there to be like addiction themes in there, because I don't think he was dealing with that. Like, I think it's things that I've pulled from seeing people in my life fall into certain lifestyles that I'm like, ooh, that hits, you know. And that happens with basically every Oracle, where I'm like, this reminds me of this thing in my life or in the life of people around me, and it's probably not that at all, but I'm like, but the words are chosen very specifically to be open-ended like that, which I like a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true art, and true art is open to interpretation.
Yeah.
So
I like what Robbie's saying with the Oracles. Like, and for me, it like changes. Like, I'll listen to an Oracle and be like, I'm in Shadowland experiencing the world and the story. And then I'll listen to it and I'll be like, this is like a personal listen. And like, what am I taking from this to apply to like how I think about daily life or whatever situation I might be in? And then sometimes it's a little bit of both. And that's just great art.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
I was going to say that it's there's not a lot of things where like it's just so specific and so unique, where like there's a lot of music I listen to where it's like, you know, some days I'm picturing the guy singing it, sometimes I'm picturing me, whatever. But like, this is even like so much more expansive than that, where it's like I can think about it in the sense of like the Oracle Quest experience, where I'm like, oh, that's the tree from that thing, and then there's this guy, you know, like I said earlier. But then I can also think about it as metaphor for, you know, things people go through. I can also think about it as the direct, like, what I've heard from the mouth of Loki about sleep paralysis. You know, there's like 8 different ways you could go on that journey, for, you know, lack of a better term, depending on how you want to that day, to Gage's point. And I think that is like very unique, where like almost the more it gets spelled out for me, whether it be from my interview with Loke, through Oracle Quest, through any of these things, that almost makes it more open to interpretation in a way, because I'm like, oh, I do know what he meant with this because he told me. But it also sounds like this to me, which I think is like, there's not a lot of things where you learn the story and then they become more intriguing, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, my first time listening through it, it was through the perspective of Loki. It shifted to kind of being the perspective of me, the listener, going through the journey. And now it's almost third person, but also first person, where I think of a person in Shadowland venturing. I just know that it's a journey that's carried throughout all of the oracles. And with this one specifically, like the three songs, well, I guess the four songs that feel the most linear is Together, Into Whisper of Nibiru, Into Marching in the Dark, and then At Far Away. Those feel the most linear, as in like I can picture falling asleep, waking up, you're on this planet now, which I did want to say, I did look up what Nibiru is. Apparently it's like a sci-fi world, or it's a world from science fiction. So it could be an oracle, might not be, but there is a reference to a planet, and I believe there is actually mentions of the planet Nibiru in the song. But then
And
from
in the
there, it's
announcement.
just, oh,
Yeah.
from there, once you get past Marching in the Dark, it's kind of like you're like an Oracle quest. You're kind of just venturing around Shadowland, and you're witnessing these different things with Follow You, Shattered, Lost, Circle, Dissect, and then eventually you find the Devil Tree. And it's very much like you're just kind of all over this world, experiencing everything. And then by the time you get to Far Away, it's like you realize like you're so far from where you started, which was in your bed. And
Yeah.
that to me is how the chorus plays out. And that's the visual it gives me, is like you have like this character who's like just walking through, and like when you pull up the CD case and you're looking at the landscape there, you're walking, you see this shadowy figure kind of walking away from everything he just experienced, and you can almost see like the Devil Tree in the background as he's walking away from it, which then ties into how transition on Book of Time, which beautifully the thought of blending the albums that way. I know there's been low key fans that I've noticed didn't notice that right away, and from the very first time I listened to all the oracles, I immediately picked up on that, because they basically went into a playlist and I listened to it and I was like, wait, this is the next album, like that. And then I realized it was at the beginning of the next album, and this transition, it bled into the next album. I was like, dude, this was so fucking thought out.
Yeah. I'm
But
glad you
yeah,
mentioned that.
that's where the album has always taken me, and that's where it always takes me. It's such a great start getting into this dream world, and then down the road you figure out there's these fucking deities here that they're up to some shit. Steer clear of them.
Yeah, the albums bleeding into each other lends to like the dreamlike quality of them. It's like the next album remembers the first one. It's like echoes. Yeah. They all like mesh together. It's so fucking cool.
So much so that when I get to Eyes of Parasuva through a run through, and I get to I'm heading back to where I started out, figured out. Like, to me, when I'm hearing that part, it's almost like I feel like he's starting to run back towards the way he came from, trying to find where he started out in Shadowland. Like, that's a visual I have with Eyes of Parasuva from that lyric.
That's a cool visual. I like that. And it's cool too, because like I don't want to get off into the weeds talking about other oracles, but
yeah. Sorry, I just had to throw that connection out there.
No, because I was going to jump in with one too. I was like, and then, but no.
Yeah. But I like that lyric because Neculi is next with that perspective, because Neculi kind of feels closer in sound and vibes to like Book of Time. So it's like, oh, we're going back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I love these albums. Each one is its own experience that like backwardly complements the last few albums before it. So
yeah. I do like a lot what you said too about, because the more I think about it, like the first few tracks on here, and maybe that's why they were the first thing I thought of to answer your original question about like what puts you in the world of it. They're the most literal.
Yeah.
Where it's like, together we're going hand in hand to this place, and then like obviously, Whisper in Nibiru is like extremely literal of like, and then this is happening, and then this is, and then, but as it goes deeper into the world of it, it's like, I don't know what some of these fucking songs are about or what they're even trying to be about. You know what I mean? They're just like,
yeah, it starts to become less linear.
Yeah, it's interpretive, just, not like, I don't mean to say it in a way that makes it sound like it's like word salad or anything, because it's not, but it's like, it's just much more abstract.
Yeah,
which
it unravels.
Totally. And then I'm just kind of floating through the record. And then especially I think the melody picks up really strongly towards the end, where you get Deviltry, you get Far Away, and then I'm just lost in those fucking vocals.
Yeah.
It ain't even about the words anymore.
Yeah. Immaculate vibes.
For sure. It's like, I like sitting and just
Exactly.
too far away.
Yeah.
I immersed myself fully into it. I guess before we fully wrap out and head out too, I just wanted to ask your guys' opinion on what is your favorite cover. I obviously do not have the OG. I'm not an OG like Gage is, but I've grown to really love this cover here. I have a new appreciation to the OG one after watching Shadowland History and realizing that's supposed to be a door that you're looking through.
Which I never understood either. And now that I've heard that, I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
It always screamed book
through.
cover to me.
Yeah. It's like a little like window.
So realizing it's a window of a door into the world is like, oh, okay, cool. But I kind of still like this cover a little bit better just because of the landscape behind it. It helps like fill that too.
Yeah. I think that cover complements the other Oracle albums better than the original one does.
And there's a bunch of other ones too. Like the original release, there was 4 covers. So there's one that's like similar to the skeleton promo thing Gage held up. There's one that's like, I think the original, which is
one that almost looks like the Book of Time cover, isn't there?
Yeah, that's the one I think is the original, which is like it says in big letters, Shadowland presented by the Low Key. DC, you can find these all in Discogs if you want to pop them in, just when we're mentioning them or whatever. But
and I kind of want to look at them real quick too while you're talking.
I think out of all of them, though, I think that the one that the current cover, I guess, the one DC showed is probably my favorite, especially after going through Oracle Quest, and it's like, there's those guys.
Yeah, especially when you pop it open to the inside. I don't know. I think Gage's might show it too, but like where it's got all of them just kind of there on the horizon.
Oh,
I don't think that one has that. No,
the DC, the inside of your mind, it's just more of like the door shapes and stuff. But DC, the inside of yours has like the circular like rings, which is what.
Yeah, it's kind of like a pit.
It's on Robbie's screen right now. I just realized that's what that is.
Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
Shit.
But this one was an album cover too at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah,
I like this one a lot. I think he said in the episode that like having his own imagery in it he doesn't like, but as much because it's more about the art. But I like this one, him being like the conduit and everything. And then I also don't know if it was intentional or not, but the book there kind of makes me think he was already thinking Book of Time before.
Well, I mean,
it was fully wrapped.
The fact that fucking, literally 2 of the later albums are name dropped in this album makes me think a lot of it, was always in the soup. And that was one of the things he talked about in the episode was that like, and we go watch the episode because we didn't hardly touch on any of that stuff at all, which, it's already there. So go watch that and know what we're talking about. But one of the things he talked about a lot was his literal venturing into these spaces through sleep paralysis and lucid dreaming and things like that, and how in those times, in let's say like 2010, 2011, he was kind of going into those spaces specifically to gather things and bring them back for the art and just for his own, psychosis research or whatever. And I think that's something that's really cool, is that like the stuff that we're still playing with today, whether it be in Oracle Quest or new albums coming out or whatever, like a lot of it really is stuff that he kind of unlocked in his brain or found in these spaces 10, 15 years ago, which the book's there, and it's like, yeah, he probably already had a lot of this plotted out, which I think you don't think that. Like, for instance, you mentioned like Joker cards. There's no chance in my brain that Violent J thought in 1992 about the Great Malenko. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
not a chance.
He literally says in Behind the Paint that he didn't know what the sixth was going to be.
Exactly. So I think like the fact that this all was to some degree a little bit mapped out from the beginning, I think is extremely interesting and cool. And I also like that it's still pretty unknown. Like, I could, I got a direct line to the guy. I could hit him up and be like, what's next? But like, even if I thought he would tell me, I wouldn't, because I like the rollout. I like the slow, like, and introductions to new things, and seeing it all play out in real time is really fun.
Yeah, the journey is all. The journey is the journey, like going through it and waiting for it. But Shadowland history episode cooked my fucking brain. Like, when he was saying that he just was taking notes about everything he was experiencing, I was like, I mean, it makes sense, because I know I've heard it said that like he's got this like manifesto, like if he was to pass away, that there are instructions, which crazy to think that it's that like planned out.
Well, and it, not to get like spiritual or whatever, but it makes you like think about like, and we can tie it to Shadowland, was like, when you dream, where are you going? Like, is it an afterlife? Is it a dream world? Are they both the same thing and different things? It's just like, I think that's,
or similar to like a DMT or something, like, Lo kind of mentioned, I think it's like, is all of this one thing? What afterlife, dreams, certain drug trips, like, are these chemicals that are released in your brain that put you in a certain wavelength or whatever that be, whether it's a physical space or a just amorphous concept. But like, it's wild stuff. We are straight up in the weeds, which I don't think there's any other way to do something like this. Like,
I think that's what's been cool about us talking about this, is just like us just like going so far off there and then like reeling it back and then getting inspired and going out there and then reeling it back.
Totally. And these records do that, to my imagination. Absolutely. And obviously all of ours. Like, I think everything we said today is probably incorrect. And that rules. You know what I mean? And I think Loke would think that was cool, because like, the point, I don't think, is to be correct. It's to be intrigued.
Yeah. Inspired,
Well, I think that, like, art in general, but and music, but like this album especially is so cool to me, because it's like, yep, that's a scary record to some guy. And to us, it's like my brain is expanding and I'm blown away. And so like it can be both things to different people and perspectives. And I think that's fucking cool as hell.
Well, and I'm all for raising my vibration, and these kind of albums do that for me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's good art. Thanks, Lo. Make more.
Can't wait for the can't wait for the rest.
I'll take the sixth one in a month, please. Thanks.
Yeah, get it cracking.
Yeah, I know we just got one, but I'm a greedy little fucking bastard.
Absolutely.
And to tie back to Oracle Quest, like, I think that's one of the things that is exciting to me about watching that roll out, and knowing that there's so much more of it to come, is like, I've already visualized so much of this stuff on all of them, or tried to figure out like, where is Book of Time taking place, and like, what's happening, who's talking, what's going on here. And we'll get into that record, and that's a whole nother fucking ball of mysteries. But it's cool to have had so much experience wondering these things, and then get to play in a physical space based on it. Like, I think that is like not an experience you get in most music fandoms at all. Like, I know like there's people that have comic books, or there's stuff where like, things do kind of tell the story, but it's very cool to be able to go into it yourself, you know, in that way with some guidance. And there's some tasks, like I said, and some kind of game elements where it's like, get the key and the key will be used later and stuff like that, like, which I think makes it cool because it gives you some structure and a reason to do certain things, but it's still pretty open-ended where you can just be like, hey, I get to go look around, you know, this album's physical space. And hey, pop some headphones in, put the record on and wander around.
Yeah, for sure. I want to do that for sure.
That's a good point. Yeah, there's not a lot of things like this. I'm going to go off on a tangent and bring it back, but we were talking about earlier, I said like nobody's doing anything like OrquEst just in general. But I'm a big System of a Down fan, and the lead singer Serge Tankian is an artist in the sense that it's not just music. Like he does all sorts of stuff. And I don't know if it was like an interview or something. He was talking about he has like an art gallery and each art piece is scored. So you can like scan it. He has wherever the gallery is, you can scan something and listen to music that is tied directly to like the painting or whatever. And that's what OrquEst is to me for low key. It's like, well, listen to Shadowland. I'm going to be in Shadowland now.
Totally.
I want to listen to the Book of Time and see what this little like piece of digital space is. And I think that's really fucking cool.
Yeah, 100%. And it's cool, like, you know, me and DC both talked about how we came to this stuff pretty late, especially compared to, you know, Gage or, you know, when it was released, you know, Shadowland specifically. And, like, it makes me excited for people that come in even later. Where it's like, if you come into this in 6 months and you're like, oh, this is an album, and there's this video where he talks about the time of his life when he made it, and also I can play this game and run around in the space. It's like, it's so immersive on so many different levels. I think like it's just really innovative and cool, and tell your friends, gang, because this is something not to miss. Yeah, it all just enriches the experience and builds upon itself in like a really cool exponential way. Just like the albums build on themselves, the Shadowland universe builds on it, and this shit's cool as hell. I wish more people are into it. I hope more people see it and get into it, because
I hope they do, but for me, it's got to be the open-minded folks.
Right. Yeah.
It's the only way. I don't think, I mean, I can't imagine someone not open-minded caring about this stuff at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a little nerdy, you know.
Yeah, I've shared songs with non-open-minded folks, and it was shot down. I was like, well, lesson learned. Don't share that with them.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I talked about it with my Shadowland story. I'm just always trying to share this stuff with people and get them as excited as I am. To this day, I gave my dad some CDs from my personal collection, and one of them was Neculi. So we'll see what happens there. He hasn't gotten back to me about it yet, but yeah,
I think there's a lot to like on that one. I know your dad's like a rock guy. I think that I can see that hitting for sure. I was listening to Neculi. I was like, my dad would probably dig this one. So I don't know. See, you got music for juggalos, you got music for dads, and hey, in Gage's case, music for juggalo dads. So
yep,
we're out here.
We're all here.
Mm-hmm. All right.
On that note, I think we.
Yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you have had a very immersive journey into Shadowland through a lot of the similar things that we have said here today, share your comments down below. We would love to hear or read about it, rather. And definitely, you know, leave a comment, leave a like. Tell us what you like about Shadowland. Tell us about your journeys into Shadowland.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's anything else you guys don't have, we're gonna head on up out of here.
Bye.
Boom. Bye.
Bye.